Thinking about it ain't gonna happen. You gotta write that shit.
Yeah,
Cam was saying SCAD.
Sam came and Denzel.
Yeah.
I think that might be good for SEOs.
Yeah,
But
it's cool.
I don't know if it actually like makes sense for our podcast. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the hard part.
And I feel like people always think of, SCAD like Savannah College.
Right.
Design.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. So right now, what we are talking about is athletic performance and training, though, and what each of us kind of went through in our own personal journeys with health and fitness. And I'll start a little bit about me. My main sport was ice hockey. I also played soccer, baseball, ultimate frisbee, but really ice hockey was my main sport, and I got beat up a lot of times playing that sport. I took some cross checks to the neck. I had to go to the hospital on that one.
That's dirty.
Dude,
you're not allowed to do that shit.
You are not. They got ejected from the game. They were kicked out.
What
And
the fuck?
I was laying on the ice like.
You were balling too hard.
Dude, I was balling too hard.
Yeah.
So I took an ambulance, the hospital. This was the worst time actually ever. It was so embarrassing because when I play hockey, you need to be super hydrated. So I'm like drinking a ton of water, and I'm laying in the hospital, and they won't let me move my head. I can't move it left. I'm in a brace, so you can't move. I'm like, I gotta pee. I had to pee 3 times while I was waiting for them to get me in X-ray or whatever. So my poor dad had to take a little plastic bottle and hold it and help me.
Oh my god.
My poor dad was just sitting there my poor son's been got smacked around.
got
I
a
gotta
neck brace.
hold his penis to help him pee. So that's my story, my little hockey story. So that's what I went through. I was 12 or 13 when that happened. That's so wild, dude.
What about your athletic background?
Oh, I've done a lot of shit. So I started doing the YMCA shit back in the day. If we're gonna go to the dawn of time,
Dawn of your time.
Yeah, exactly. U8, U10, U12 type shit, And so soccer, baseball were the 2 first things. And then I played ultimate, but I never played put together structured ultimate until I was in college. I would just throw frisbee with my dad and my friends and shit. And honestly, I never really stuck to one sport. I do basketball here and there, but I didn't play too many structured basketball games. It was more just street ball.
Move your
type
body.
shit. Yeah, just
But you also did mention your Cub Scouts and all that.
Exactly.
It's not sports, but it's
yeah.
Based on your experience, I missed out on the side being so heavily in the sports as far as how we use our bodies and.
Exactly, because the thing is, scouting is different. Hiking, rucking, backpacking, that's just.
It's different.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun, and it's in nature. And it's it might not be as challenging as going super intense HIIT cardio because you're you're just walking with a backpack, right? But it's still you get 10 miles in a day. I had an experience where I went to Philmont, and so that's and the Main Adventure was the year after, but Philmont's in New Mexico. And so we literally backpacked for 2 weeks in the southern Rocky Mountains, and there's this one mountain called Baldy. It's so tall that it goes past the tree line, and so we were literally a football field away from the top, so close to the top, and then it lightninged and thundered, and we were oh wait, no, we're so close, we have to go back down though. Because there are no trees, we will get struck by lightning. So we were pissed.
That's intense, dude. Did you ever see a bear or something?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we were walking to camp one day, and there's this black bear, and essentially what we did was we all huddled together and like put our hands up and just like looked at it in the eyes. And we didn't like yell or anything, you know what I mean? But we just like got as big as possible, like in a group, in a unit. And he was chilling. The bear was chill as hell. And so like he looked at us and he like started walking over this stone, and this stone is like a boulder. It's like the size of the bear. And he just like flips it like one, and he's looking for like, you know, bugs and shit. Like it was crazy. But this stone, I was like, how do you just do that? I was like, this is
Sounds like a tire flip.
Yeah, exactly.
God. I mean, I segue and say this, like, that's all about team camaraderie and all that, all of what it takes to like have a common goal, and that's why I really enjoy sports. So I played everything from basketball, soccer, football, ice hockey, roller hockey, a lot of martial arts, gymnastics. Didn't do baseball. Wish I would have did baseball.
It's a fun one.
Hits differently.
And track. Oh my God. Like track. Go Google Denzel Hill on YouTube. You'll find him. That's it. But my football career ended at Columbia University. I thought I was going to the NFL, but I had an Achilles tear along with a whole slew of other injuries that really gave me a pause between college and the pros. And in between that pause, I was like, it's a bad business deal. It's too much to get in. It's too much to stay in. And once you're out, you're lost. And so that's essentially why I'm here. Like, I met Cam through this journey because I wanted to get better through athletics, and that's a lot about what we're going to talk about today, what it takes to be an athlete, you know.
Yeah, what does it mean to do that?
What does it mean to be able to move good, you know, and like how can we help the body? How can we facilitate the body's healing journey? Because it's always healing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you get hurt, it's healing. You get a cut on your hand. We talked about this last week. You get a cut on your hand. You twist your ankle. Your body is constantly fixing that.
Yeah. Like
minute by minute, second by second, it's fixing it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, in your experience, you clearly seem to have the highest level. I only played freshman college sports before I dropped out and I went to massage school. So, for you, like
the highest sports I did was club ultimate.
Yeah.
So, like, I could have been on the A team, but the thing is, I decided not to.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to do the 6:30 a.m.
dedication
workouts.
thing, man.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm doing this for fun. So
dude, I did the same thing actually. When I was at UConn, the A team kept trying to draft me because I played ultimate in high school, and like I was good at ultimate. I was a really good handler. I could cut, I could run deep, I could jump. And the A team's like, no, like we need you, but like they would travel to like California on the weekends for frisbee tournaments.
From Connecticut?
Dude, they would fly out there.
That's insane.
And I'd have to pay, because remember, UConn Ultimate, like they played in the Metro East. So like Metro East is a terrible bracket, but like UConn's like high up there in the Metro East bracket. So they would play against, people in Florida and Cali, and they would travel all over the place just to play frisbee. I was like, frisbee's a fun sport, but I'm playing to get high and hang out with my friends.
Yeah, exactly.
He said it, not me.
I mean, for real. You get the ultimate, and then like we had this place called the Lake House, and it's like the house that's got like the porch, and then there's like the chairs on top of the roof, and it's like you sit on the roof.
Ridiculous level.
Yeah, and like people are like jumping out of the windows and shit. Like it's
and like
the party town,
and that's great because like that's a good use of like your body and like having fun with people, but that's not high level athletics.
Yeah,
exactly.
I gotta talk about it, man.
Yeah,
there's definitely like I knew it's my path. It's who I am as a person. When I commit to something, I'm going all out. I'm going full out. I'm on the field training 6 days a week. I don't care who's not there. That's not my decision. I want to be the best player I can be for my team, and we'll talk about how that can become negative. That whole work mentality. But for me to be able to like shift that mindset into life, and it's just not starting to click. I've been out of college since 2018. Yeah, December 2017 I graduated. And it's 2023 now.
6 years.
A lot of athletes go through this. They don't understand how to really do life once they've done it for so long, done school for so long. I mean, school and athletics starts to take over.
Yeah.
And at Columbia, it was so tough because I was in an architecture program doing football in Manhattan. So I had to take the bus up to 100 streets just to go to the football field. I'm managing a full course load, and this idea of like, why am I doing this? Just wasn't. It wasn't there. It wasn't there until I was done. No, it wasn't there until I was in the boot for real. Like
until you're at your limit. Until you're like,
you're
like, I need a breath. Like I need.
There is because I gave up sleep. I gave up nutrition. You only got 24 hours. I gotta turn in the same work as everybody else. I'm supposed to be the best player on the field. How?
Yeah.
You just gotta.
Someone's gotta give.
Exactly, and like it's a that's my path right now. I'm like, I have a voice for the athletes that's trying to get it in the pros, in the pee-wees, and everything in between, because we're all going through the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, we're always being judged. That turns into us heavily judging ourselves, and then you get out the game, and it's like, okay, go live, like, go do life, and life isn't like the game is. You know, life isn't a set standard of rules. You know, when they say, bro, run that 10-yard out, you better not run an 11-yard out, because it's gonna get picked. And so I'm learning myself. There's all these little switches in my head. I kind of gotta like, you know, whatever that looks like neurologically. I've been really transforming just how I think and move about my life. Because man, that athletics, that student athlete life is no joke. Like if you don't, once you stop loving it, quit. You're hurting your team. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting the people that's coming to see you. You're just on the sidelines, acting like you want to play. Don't quit. That's my message. Like, have players on the team. Like, bro, just quit. You don't want to be here. Yeah. And it's okay, because it's hard, man. It's hard committing to it.
Yeah. And that's a hard, like, mental, like, thing to get over, because, like, once you've done it, but if you don't want to do it anymore, like, a lot of people will force themselves to keep going, even though they don't want to keep going, because it's like, oh, I can't let down my team. But it's like, you are letting down your team by continuing to keep going if you don't want to be there, because you're not giving it your all, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, only do it if you want to 100% do it.
Yeah, I've heard this amazing quote, and it was basically by, I think it was an Olympian, I don't remember who it was, and you kind of, you know, in social media, you never really know who your source is. You see 100 videos, and which one was it? Who said it?
Winston Churchill.
I have no idea. But it was along the lines of, you know, if you never quit on a bad day, you quit on a day that you feel great.
Exactly.
Because if you feel like you're having a good day and you still want to quit, that means you really want to quit.
Exactly.
But because like it's hard, like you talk about, it's hard. Because I mean, like for me, in my experience, you know, I was that level until I graduated high school. I was a three sport athlete. I won, like our school had this award of like, you know, like highest GPA as a varsity athlete, and I won that multiple times. So I have a little plaque at home. My dad still has it. It's like, oh, like
4.0 guy right here.
Yeah, I was like, like for you, like you were the best athlete in doing school, and I was the best student doing sports. And you know, I never really was able to go full into sports because my dad, in the back of my head, was always like, you're not going to be a pro athlete because you're going to be a smart person. You're going to go get a job. You're going to do this thing.
Okay.
So he was like basically diminishing that. Like, you're not going to be a pro athlete. That's not. You will not happen. And so I was always like, you know, putting more of my eggs into being an intelligent person, a student, than doing athletics. And so because of that, you know, although I worked my butt off, I was usually like winning sprints in my team. I was working my butt off. But that was really just because I liked it. I just enjoyed doing it. It was a fun thing to do. Like, I like running, I like playing, I like hitting people. And you know, and so,
I like hitting people.
Yeah, like, it's fun, dude. Like, so like my
it is fun to actually take someone down.
Yeah, it is, dude. Like, you know, drop that shoulder, like, boom, dude. Like, that shit's fun, dude.
Yeah,
because
dude, it was hard for me because when I learned I had epilepsy, right, then I was like, oh, I can't
really do
a lot of this other shit that I enjoy doing, and so I'm just glad that I got to do a lot of the contact shit before.
That's real.
I really found out I had epilepsy.
That's real. Something you brought up, like, about your dad. Like, we can forgive dad, of course.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I give thanks for my parents for supporting me because, I mean, like I said, I went to Columbia University. You don't get in there without good grades, great grades. You're not getting recruited because you can't even have like a certain GPA. You can only have certain levels of, hey, I got a 3.8 in high school. You're like a band 1. I'm like, band 1? And the higher you go up, you know, it's like you got higher score in your SAT and you got a higher GPA. And I want to fast forward to the moment. I could literally feel it. I was walking in my closet after being done training. As I'm training for the NFL, you know, shout out Coach Swindell. Whole lot of track stuff to get this Achilles back to a 4.340. And my body, a couple days after that, just said I'm tired. Like, I literally heard the little boy in me told me I was tired. And it almost broke my heart. I'm like, bro, like I'm that tired. I'm so burnt out. I just had a voice tell me I'm tired.
Yeah.
And like amongst that time, like I started getting the opportunity to go do some construction things, and I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do, man.
Because like 20 years old, 22
yeah,
years
when you're in
old?
your 20s, it's gonna happen.
You had COVID going on during that time. Like, what's going on in the world? What's going on with me?
Dude, facts.
What am I trying to do in my life? You know.
I feel like nobody knew what was going on during COVID. Like,
We'll talk about it another time.
Yeah, dude, COVID was crazy.
Yeah, but like what I want to tell athletes, like you have to listen inside. I wish I was meditating while I was playing. I wish I was not ignoring my body. Your team does not care as much as you can about your body. They can't.
So true. Well, and to that point, you know, I didn't start meditating until I was 19, so I was already past my athletic career at that point. I mean, not that I'm not athletic now, but you know, I transitioned into doing Ninja Warrior training when I was like 19, like really like going to like the actual gyms for that and like really doing monkey stuff. Because when I was in high school, I was always wanting to be a Ninja Warrior. I did all my workouts because I wanted to be good at Ninja Warrior, but like they didn't have any place to do it. I was an athlete. I didn't have time to go.
Yeah, it's niche as fuck, dude. I wanted to do that shit, and I never found a spot. I just like
not really here.
Yeah, and so I mean, I did a little bit of calisthenics, but like,
well, it's so different. You know, I mean, like, cause I got to work out with Drew Dressel, and you know, he won American Ninja Warrior a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And you know, he had like a scandal like with some girl or something. Whatever, I don't care. He was a great athlete, and like he was coaching me. Like I was the number 2 guy at this gym, behind like the best guy in the world.
You bad.
Like I was good at this thing.
Yeah, dude.
But you know, one of the big things that we were talking about earlier was like, you know, the discipline to show up every day at 6:30. You didn't want to do 18. I don't want to do 18. Discipline to wake up early.
Yeah.
You got to have the heart. You got to have the thing, but also the mental fortitude, and that's something that I think you and I both lacked, and maybe you as well.
I did for a long time.
Was not really meditating. Like, hey, like, you know, do I need, like, you don't even know if you need to recover until you really meditate. I didn't recover. That's why I got totally messed up when I was 14. Like, my back was all contorted. I had double scoliosis. My knee was out. Like, you know, I had so many problems. I mean, I had 8 joints that were in the wrong spot. And, like, I didn't even know. I was just out there playing like a kid. Just having fun. Bro. Until at one point, like, it was my freshman year, and, like, I just couldn't even walk anymore. I was like, oh, crap. Like, and, like, at no point did I go to the doctor, and they were like, oh, like, you know, breathe and fall and think about what's going on. Like, I wish that happened. Because once I did that, that's when my healing journey really began. And I was like, whoa. I can actually feel that my knee is out. I can feel that my ankles. I can feel that my spine is doubly twisted. And once you feel, and I that's something I want every athlete to know is like, because if you're still in your prime, like you need to be out there like feeling yourself. You need to know, because that's something none of us knew when we were athletes. And you almost went to the NFL. Like, bruh, you know what I mean? Like,
listen, it was not almost going to the NFL. Like I want to let everybody know, even down to like my friends, they weren't getting the phone calls I was getting. They weren't getting the coaches coming to my locker like, say, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so is here for you. And I went to Columbia University, Ivy League in New York. That year before I moved to DB and was like, oh God, like I'm very talented and people could see that. There was nobody coming to Columbia for us. That year after I moved, we had 27 teams show up, 27 pro football teams. So pick, 32? 5 teams. 5 of the NFL teams didn't show up. And I'm like looking at these numbers. I'm looking at who's calling me. I'm looking at my size, the size of, say, Jalen Ramsey. I'm like, dude, this is about to happen. And so I went full out, like, oh my God. I didn't know about rest though. I went full out on everything but rest. And like, that's one thing. Like, if I could turn back the time, I'd rest probably more than I worked. I just had to miss this or that. I gave it all. When I say I gave it all, man, I gave it all.
Well, and you almost gave it too much, you know, because that's something that, you know, I see a lot here in my clinic. Like, I had this young girl. She was 17 years old. She wanted to be a rockette. So she's dancing 6-7 days a week. She's a cheerleader. She's a dancer. So she's doing 4, 5, 6 hours of exercise a day without resting.
It's crazy. Like,
consistently doing that. And so I've been seeing her for maybe a little over a year now, in like spotty on and off, whether she comes in, because people like that, they really only come in when they have time to. or when they're actually hurt, they can't even play or do their thing.
Yeah.
And so at one point, like she came and like she like literally like tore her Achilles.
Uh-huh.
Like not probably the same degree you did. It wasn't a full tear, but like she had MRIs of like it was torn. It was a torn. Like she couldn't walk on it, she couldn't stand on it, and it took me.
Couldn't flex the toes.
Couldn't flex her toes. She's like that hurts. Like nothing she could do was working, and so it took us. I basically sat down with her. I was like, because she came in, she's like, "What am I gonna do?" I was like, "You need to stop showing up to your sports. You cannot go to cheerleading.
You need to rest.
You cannot go to you need to rest. You cannot do this." And like all the other thing, you need to actively take a role in healing this. If you don't take a bath, if you don't drain the blood, if you don't do these things, like you will not get better. Because traditionally, like when this happens, you go to the hospital or you go to the nurse or whatever, and they recover with you and they change your bandages. But because it's an internal injury, there's no bandages to be changed. So I sat down with her and mom was like, you have to, here's your protocol.
Oh my God.
Do this. Like this was no joke. Like you don't just heal a torn tendon by just sitting there and recovering, just resting. You need to get the blood flow out because there's constantly blood going down to fix it. So if you don't daily or multiple times a day drain that blood out, there's no more room for new blood to come into that. So it sounds like such a simple thing, but yet the doctors don't do that. I mean, it took us 3 weeks and she was back and good to go. I have not seen her in 6 months. So she went from a torn Achilles to following the protocol, doing the things, taking 3 weeks off, and then she went right back to it 6 days a week, 7 days a week, have not had a problem since. Just because because
she did her homework.
She did her homework. She did the stuff. And that's something that's the one I want everyone out there to know is like whatever injury you have, you're not gonna get healed by going to a doctor. You just won't. You flat out will not.
It's not their job. They manage it.
They're managing it.
They say it.
And they control it. They manage it. Like my sister, for example, she's got rheumatoid arthritis. And like the last time I talked to her, she's like, "Yeah, it's under control." And I was like, "Hey, like I love you. Like you're my sister. And the way that you say that tells me that like you're never gonna get better. Like you're only 29, dude. Like you're 29. You've had this for like a few years now, and like." I want you to live till you're 90.
Time to be dealing with some arthritis.
Managing that for 70 years, 60 years.
And it's only going to get worse.
Like, imagine if you just...
She needs some lasers.
Need some lasers. Need some lasers, need some rehab. Cause
eat, breathe, and move.
Eat, breathe, and move. Because like, you mentioned that the lasers might have even sped up that process for her. Because like you can basically get the blood flow to have more oxygen in it.
Yeah,
and, like,
you can do the blood
recovery.
Flow. And then you really can do the whole 9 yards, you know, like... Lasers, they help with the nervous system, they help with tendons, they help with ligaments, cartilage, they blood, you know, skin, like it just depends on the setting you choose. And so I always do it for like, whenever I'll do ultimate now and like, you know, afterwards my ankles might hurt, you know, from like cutting so much, you know? And so you have to have like strong ass like tendons and ligaments. And so I'll heal them with the lasers, and they'll feel good as new. And it's like, that is literally training your body. That's training your joints.
Yeah, it's like you're training your body to. I heard you say the lasers is healing you, but you know the body does the healing. That's
yeah.
You loosely talking
it just
about
speeds
it.
Up.
Yeah, it's like the body's like, oh snap, that's exactly how I'm supposed to do it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you one time Sam said this to me, and I really resonated with it. It's like the laser is basically food for your body.
Yeah.
To speed
it's
up.
light food.
Yeah, it's light. Like.
Yeah.
Because I mean, just like you know.
It's like the sun.
Yep.
That's a recovery tool for myself. Like,
yeah, dude.
Like,
just like a plant, you know, converts sunlight into energy. That you're converting red light or whatever color or ultraviolet lights coming out of that laser, and you're going to convert that to ATP electrons.
It's called the building blocks.
Yeah, like building Legos. That's crazy.
Boy, I'm about to go scientific on me.
Yeah, well,
have to.
That's all I do.
Have to. This is what you do, man.
Hey, my dad taught me to be a super nerd. So like, my whole brain is built on like. It doesn't matter how athletic you are. My biggest thing was always my brain, because it was ingrained into me. Like when I grew up. This is something that like I say now, like joking, and it sounds a little sad, but I actually enjoyed it as a kid. My dad, for my birthday, would get me like a book of math, like a math book. I would be so hyped to get a math book.
No, that's cool. Funny. That's cool. That's like, healthy.
Yeah, like
that's very healthy.
I was like 3 or 4. I'd like be in my room like for my spare time doing this.
No, you speak for me. That's a healthy thought pattern because I just like figuring things out. I like when things work. I'm a builder, so when when a square hole fits a square peg, I'm like, oh, let's do that again.
Well, so as someone who specialized, like football was like your sport,
right?
Like, do you think that like specializing in a single sport was optimal? Like, you talking about that?
I mean, high school was basketball, football, track until junior year was track, football. Put it this way, I hear exactly what you're saying. Specialization is no doubt problematic because the body moves in so many different ways. Yeah. When we use the body so much in one way, it's going to get tired, it's going to break. And you'll be able to explain that deeper than I can. Not even want to try.
It's like, think of it like people who specialize in long distance running, they're like thin as fuck. Like they have no extra weight and like they're not like ripped, you know.
Now what I will say is that what you're specializing in, it's you're training to be the best.
Exactly.
For that, that's why specialization is there. But for example, off season, I wish I would have went and did like more swimming.
Exactly.
Get back into my posterior chain, get off the ground, off the turf.
Because it's a balance.
How much can you cut without? You're not gonna forget how to cut if you don't cut for a month.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like I had that missing link as far as like performance and how I could better myself.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to do more on the football field. No, like go play pickleball.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Seriously.
Because I understand like wanting to be the best at something, and you have to specialize in order to be the best. But it like you have other talents that will transition horizontally, and so that's what people always forget about. Because like if you work on swimming, you might think, oh, that's only helping me in the swimming category. It's like, no, that
everything.
Yeah, that yeah, exactly. It transitions over.
And that's actually something that I talked to like these dancers because I once I've worked on this girl, I've worked on many of the other dancers in her group because she had such great results. And one of the things that I constantly tell them is like, you guys are doing 6 days a week of on your toes. They're like stick your butt back, but like the massive overarching that they get in their low back is so bad because what's happening is like their hips are rotating so far forward.
It sticks like that.
And it stays like that. And then they go sit down and then they're on their phones because they're freaking 15-year-old girls. Right. They're on their phones. They're doing homework and
they're all like
and then like they've got all this contortion. Like I went through this when I was 14. Like I went through that because I played sports that were all quad dependent. So and football is a great example. It's all calf and quad. There's very little hamstring and back when you're doing that. And so that just totally shifts the hips into positions. And I tell these girls all the time, like, because this girl, again, she wants to be a rock dancer. She wants to be a professional dancer. Like, she wants to get paid to dance.
Tough sport right there.
And I was like, if you want to do that, you have to build up other muscles other than just your dancing muscles. And like you talked about the posterior chain. Swimming. I told her, just literally go to the gym and activate muscles you don't know how to activate. Do like the lightest weight possible, but do things that are literally hard for you with no weight.
Resistance training is actually building strength to go against injuries. Exactly. So like if you do bodybuilding correctly, you will be less likely to be injured. And that's why I like
teaching the muscles how to contract and relax.
Yeah.
Cam says all the time.
And like for example,
building a brick wall, not building a pyramid. I talk to Sam about this a lot.
Yeah.
Have you not heard this yet?
The macro tears versus the micro tears.
We're gonna visualize that down the road.
Yeah. So I'll just do a very basic analysis right now. So this is a typical muscle right here. So this is one unit of contracting fiber.
Right.
So you've got proteins, and what happens is that these muscles like grab this and they pull it together.
They come in, yeah.
And they use ATP to grab and pull. So that's how it works. So you've got, your bicep has 1 billion of these units.
All right.
So when I do this, I've done this 1 billion times, essentially, right?
Essentially like that. And
yeah.
They squeeze in.
And so so actin and myosin. And so what that happens is like when you go work out, for Sam, for example, he wants to build bigger muscles.
All right.
So Sam is going to go for giant rips. So he's basically only going to have like this tiny little bit of stuff attached.
So I go for like 10 reps. And
heavy weight.
Hypertrophy.
Yeah. And so if you're doing hypertrophy, you're doing those macro tears and you're actually building that pyramid. While if you do the relative strength, it's a little different because, if you do stamina, which is even more than hypertrophy, like more reps, then it'll be more micro.
So even like isometrics?
So isometrics is huge, yeah. So it's and so the thing
got that at the end of my career. Like,
yep.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, and so the way I view it is like if you want to build a muscle and you want to be like not prone to injury, you basically want to build a brick wall because you've got remember they look like noodles. You've basically got
facts. I really hear you.
So so when
bunch of spaghetti.
Yeah, it's a bunch of spaghetti. That's what muscles are. They're just spaghetti fibers that we call muscle. Yeah. And so when you make big rips, you could have as big as a rip as you could rip 15 of these across. Yeah. And then you would get a giant muscle, but what happens is in order to rebuild that, you have to send a bunch of protein to literally go and build it again. You have to rebuild, and that's what recovery is all about. Is go home, rest, drink your protein, and put the thing. And that's why I talked to you about how after you do a workout, it's super important to do your stretching before you put the protein in. Yeah. Because you've now ripped the muscle. Now you need to basically pull it apart a little further, then put the protein in. Then there's more space to build it more evenly.
And that's what stretching is. And so bodybuilders are probably, out of all the athletic people, I think bodybuilders understand rest and appreciate rest the most.
They're calculated as no other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because, for all the other sports, think about the Kobe mindset, right? Kobe was up at 5, 6 in the morning, he was trying to work more than everyone else. And he knew that he's if I just put in more time than everyone else, I'm just going to be better than everyone else. Right. It's that simple. Mm-hmm. And so he did. But I don't know if you ever really got enough rest. Did we ever hear Kobe talking about recovery? Recovery, yeah, exactly.
It needs to happen in the athletic world. And one thing that I'm taking as my mission in life, and that I've low-key been running from, but not shining like I'm supposed to. It's just the whole food and nutrition aspect. Because every coach I had, that was never really the forefront. But with me, that's first. That's first. Fuel. That's number one. If you wake up and your phone's on 50% every day, you're gonna get another phone. That's not a good phone. Nothing. Yeah. So hearing you say all of that stuff about how we really do this, oh my God, I can't wait to go pro in pickleball.
Yeah, dude. And then the other part is remember, so this is something that is people, orthopedics and most PTs and people that study muscles disagree with me on this. So tendons are just muscles that have less blood supply. They're made of actin and myosin too. Yeah. They're not necessarily.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, they're not acting in myosin and another Lego block.
Literally.
Whoa.
So it's the same.
How else is that?
It's just the amount of blood that's in it, and the muscle also
has
more glycogen cells, and
therefore expresses itself differently.
But fundamentally, they're the same thing. Right. And so when you have a tendon, that's how I healed a tendon in 3 weeks.
You just treat it like a muscle.
You treat it like a muscle.
Bro, I'm so sorry, bro. I really am.
That's what I'm saying. Because you gotta train your ligaments and tendons. You do 6 sets of 10, and that's training your ligaments.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and
my dad was a bodybuilder, so I'm very keen to it. It's just I didn't make that connection. Yeah. It was too much information.
Well, and even the doctors don't make that connection. You wouldn't believe the woman that came in with an 11 millimeter tear in her supraspinatus. She had gotten an MRI maybe a couple weeks prior.
Rotator cuff, huh?
Rotator cuff, yeah. So it's the muscle that basically helps you do this lateral motion. And I talked to Sam about this. She actually came in today. I was working with her today, and she was like, dude, my shoulder is 100% better. I have no issues with it. And
where'd you at?
11 millimeter.
You went to UConn. I went to Columbia, bro. You could have told me you knew this. Oh, where were you at? Oh!
It's just so wild to me, dude.
That's so funny.
When you go to the gym, when either you go to the gym or I go to the gym, do you have to actively think about your muscles repairing themselves?
Nope.
They just do it, right? They just automatically do it.
It helps to actively, link your mind to the physical.
Talk about that.
Yeah, mind-muscle connection type.
And the reason why you don't have to is because there's so much blood flow already being delivered to your muscles.
Because in order to activate it.
Yeah, if you don't have oxygen, you cannot contract the muscle. Yeah. Simple as that. Because muscles basically are just their nucleus. They are a bunch of calcium, and they're a bunch of mitochondria to help you fire that thing. and so they're specialized. But tendons, they don't get the blood flow. However, if you know how to basically bring the blood there in a specific pattern, it will heal the exact same methodology that a muscle will. It's the exact
blood banding.
It's the same protein. It's the exact same protein. So you give it the same amino acids. You give it the same protein drink. You put it the right way, and bada bing, bada boom, you're done. And that also goes for kidneys, liver, heart, lung, like gallbladder, pancreas. Your body can already do that, and so like
That's so cool.
and that's what modern medicine, in my opinion, is just getting wrong. Is because they think of it like black and white.
Let me pause you.
Yeah,
when I made the connection
going too deep.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
No,
that's
good.
a perfect
Yeah.
segue because when I made that connection, like, wait, yeah, my body's breaking, but it's not my body's fault.
It's gonna break no matter what.
Yeah.
It's not my body's fault. I'm kind of driving this, and this gets into you understanding who you really are. You know, are you a spirit in your body? Or are you just a body? Like, you know?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
Are you like back here, like moving levers around and like pressing buttons, you know? Or are you like, you know, just
as athletes,
everything?
are we feeling our body? Are we like checking in on the ankle? Like, all right, bro, it's time to stop, rest, done. No,
Exactly.
rest.
No, you
really
pop a couple ibuprofen, you keep going.
pop some endomethacins, keep going.
And that's really what, in my opinion, the goal of the specialization. This is kind of what I asked you about, like the specialization. That goal to be the best really takes a toll on the body in such a profound way that is it's not talked about. And so the only true people that are the best in the world, they have to have the recovery. And that's why they have the money to pay people like me and other PTs and others.
They pay a lot for recovery.
They
You know about LeBron's recovery style?
Tom Brady,
He's got like the cryo freeze like stuff going on. Oh my god.
I mean, Tom Brady has an entire massage therapist that like he basically does his entire off season with, because I think they do what, I forget what the way that they have their own the
TB12. Yeah, I studied that.
And their method is very similar to my method. It's like almost the exact same thing. It's just they wrote a book first. Because they had Tom Brady paying to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And they could market it, and so, but their whole thing is like, you know, as much as you contract it, you have to relax it equally as much.
As much as you hyperextend, you must flex.
And as much as you drink alcohol, you've got to drink enough water to and then also consciously put the stem cells to the liver to repair that. That's why smokers have lung issues. That's why drinkers have liver issues. That's why people that drink protein have kidney issues, because you're overworking that thing, and you have to recover and do that. And that's why everyone needs an off season. And like no athlete can run every single day, unless you're David Goggins.
It's like a deload week for bodybuilding, right?
Yep.
A lot of people don't understand deload weeks. I was trying to tell that to my brother, and I was like, bro, we've been overtraining, right? Like we haven't been getting as good sessions in recently because our bodies are already tired from the previous sessions.
You're neurologically tired.
Yeah. And so it's like you gotta rest. And so we were gonna do pull day yesterday, but like, you know, we had such a big push day, we PR'd and everything. We're like, you know, we're just gonna take another rest day.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. You need to do that, because if you don't, then like you never get fully recovered, and then when you go to the gym the next time, because even when you do a pull day, you're still gonna use those same muscles in like some level. Like your chest may not fire the same way as when you're doing a bench press, but if you're doing a pull up, your chest is still getting long and short. It's still moving. So, but so you, Sam, you are a little bit like more encompassing in terms of your workouts, you know, because you were more specialized.
Yeah, my brain is definitely trained to see how much faster can I run, how much better can I lock someone up.
Yeah, and so like you're kind of idea, like you're more of like, you know, do everything, right? So like talk to me a little bit about that.
So Omnifitness, right?
It's a term. It's a cool term.
Yeah.
About that.
This is what I'm trying to essentially coin. And so Omnifitness is about not specializing. And so if you're powerlifting all the time and you're always doing like at most 5 reps, why don't you chill out one day, try to do 10 reps and see how hypertrophy hits you. And then, you know, the same deal, like if you're always doing plyometrics, you know, try doing bodybuilding, or back and forth, right? If you're always doing barbell, try doing the dumbbells, because then you're going to use different balancing muscles, right? And so it's like, at one point, you know, I would have been working out for a while and I plateaued, and I'm like, man, I'm at this plateau. Like, how do I get through this plateau?
Novelty.
And it's like, exactly, confuse your muscles. Do something
Shock
new.
the muscle.
Yeah, exactly. And, yeah. And so it's like, when you think about training a lot of different things, then you start to actually have more fun training too. Because, a lot of like doing the same thing over and over can get boring, right?
Repetitive.
Like, yeah, you do the same thing over and over. And so it's like, okay, well, we've been doing, squats every leg day. This time we do some box jumps, we just like switch things up. And so, because there are a lot of different kinds of strength. There's the relative strength, there's absolute strength, there's explosive strength, there's speed strength, there's agility, there's flexibility. There is so much shit that you can practice. And the thing is when you over practice one thing, that's when you increase your chances to be injured in that thing.
That's it.
And so Omnifitness is like, just be the best version of you in every way possible.
And I'm sitting here wondering why I'm always hurt during training camp.
It's because you do the same thing over and over.
Like, coach cannot rest. For one, we're not resting training camp. That's every day.
Yeah.
And so it's a thick conversation of like profit and college and pro football sports.
Oh yeah.
Things like that
Oh,
keep the players on the field, and that'll be for another time. But this is just the basic understanding where we're at. But I like that Omnifitness. Where'd you get that from? The Omni.
See, I just thought of that, honestly. Yeah, I came to Cam one day and I was like, dude.
Like omnipotent and all that type of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Omniscient, omnipotent, yeah.
Yeah, it's like all encompassing. Essentially.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I was like, the closest kind of thing that I could think of was like CrossFit. They do a bunch of different stuff, but still CrossFit is terrible because
I'm not a big fan.
You know how many people I've had to tell about CrossFit? I'll be like, oh, do you work out? And they're like, yeah, I do CrossFit. And I'm like, I'm just honest every time. I'm like, I don't agree with CrossFit. I'm sorry. And then, and they're like, oh, really? Why? And I'm like, well, essentially you're sacrificing range of motion and you're sacrificing form for intensity, right?
And they want to get the reps too.
Yeah.
They have to get the reps.
Yeah.
At whatever cost.
And so, the rep is more important than
Form.
the quality
Every time
of
you
the
say
rep.
it gets me.
And exactly, it's like McDonald's, right? Quantity versus quality, right? You want a steak or you want a shit ton of like shitty ass burgers. And so, cause think about it, like the pull-ups, right? Like,
and don't get me wrong. I don't think either of us are saying that the CrossFitters are not strong. That they're.
oh
Not
no, I'm not
athletes.
saying they're not
They're
athletic.
intense
Yeah,
athletes.
like
But
they
get
get the job
hurt
done.
more than any of them.
Exactly. Their mascot is a puking clown. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's their literal mascot. It's Pukey the clown.
What?
Where that's the whole point. You keep going until you puke. You run as hard as you can. They do like Olympic style lifting, and then they go haul ass a mile afterwards.
That make me uncomfortable.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Well, that's the whole, kind of the whole point.
Like,
but to be fair, we live in a world where people are kind of pussies. Like, we sit behind desks. We have cell phones.
That is true,
We sit
but,
in
like,
cars.
We got it made.
So like I do. There's some level of like you need to have like some stress in your life.
yeah,
like that.
I get the mentality, but it's too far.
Yeah, it's a bit too far because like I have some clients that do CrossFit and like they're just always hurt. Like they're always hurt.
They're in a constant state of
and like
injured.
And they come in on my table and I'm like working on them and I'm like, hey, like you guys need to rest. You need to drink more water. You need to recover and you need to take some rest days because they don't take rest days.
Exactly.
And they're like, why am I hurt all the time? Like, well, because of what you were doing.
Yeah.
If you
because
don't
of the movements that you're choosing to put yourself through. Like, I saw this one thing where they had a bar, and then they would squat, and then they'd throw the bar, and then the other partner would catch the bar, and then squat, and then throw the bar.
Weight?
Yeah, like
that sounds.
It wasn't
so
like
dangerous.
135 pounds, but it was like, they're literally throwing the bar back and forth.
I mean, that's actually kind of cool. I won't lie. I kind of want to try that now. I
did it with a kettle. I used to do that with kettle.
But the thing is,
yeah.
you're asking to get hurt.
Yeah.
Like, like.
No, that is true. You are. I mean, and that's the tough part is when you're talking about athletics, like you are supposed to get hurt. That's what athletics is.
Well, yeah, but
because
like
you had
a proper amount of hurt. Yeah.
Well, because like when you go to the gym, like your goal is to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's as crazy as it sounds, like the goal is to basically rip open your muscles so that way when you go home and eat food, it will recover itself and you get big and strong.
And granted, there is kind of a fine line between like when you're in the point of training where you're making gains or you're like pushing yourself to your limits and you're trying to break your limits, but then like to injury, like actually physically like damaging yourself to a point where you're not helping yourself. Like there is kind of
there's a gray area there.
Yeah.
Well, in my specialty, you know, when I was in high school, I was training. I played hockey, I played soccer, I played baseball. Actually, I played ultimate at this point. But the goal was always to do Ninja Warrior. And so in Ninja Warrior, the whole point is you need to be incredibly strong and also be lightweight. So you can basically hold yourself up for like 5 minutes in the air.
It's all relative strength.
It's all relative strength. And so that when I was in high school, I didn't really know any better. I was still bench pressing. I was doing, you know, normal weight room things. And at one point, I was, you know, about 150 pounds. I was 17, and I pushed up 295 on bench press. So like,
which is crazy.
It was absurd. And like, you know, and so like my
295.
Yeah, like
not on the bench.
Yeah, me neither.
And I was 150
My PR right now is 2 of 225.
Right, and like, but the thing is, like, you know, we went to gym like maybe a couple weeks ago, and like I haven't done a heavy bench press in 6 years, and we were doing incline, and I hit 185 for 3 reps. I haven't touched bench press in 6 years.
Which is 185 for 3
and
reps.
I'm not a big
really
dude.
Good.
I'm not that big, but
that's your incline.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like that's the thing with me with relative training, that that stuff sticks around because the whole point, back to the building blocks, is that when you build pyramids, you now have to basically build more cells. When you are focusing on the current, like, so my leg is, you know, let's say that big around, and let's say I want to maximize the level of strength that this much of muscle can get to, versus hypertrophy, which is I want to basically grow that mass. That doesn't necessarily mean that you actually are stronger. That means that you are larger. But my whole methodology with relative strength and like how I train is I want to basically have the entire length of my, you know, 1 billion sarcomeres. I want them equally to be as strong as possible. So that way when this part of the chain gives out during my workout, the rest can take up for it and kind of go through it like that.
It's like it's like building more neuromuscular junctions, like having more connections. So that way, instead of just having a bigger muscle, you have more bridges in between the nervous system.
And it's like that's naturally going to happen as you go through the protocol to make that happen. Because when I'm just not going through the motions, but when you do the same thing, I mean, there's only so much that your brain's going to be like, you know. But when we're doing the same thing, you fall into a flow, you fall into a rhythm. It's almost like we're asleep or halfway at the wheel, just squatting 475 when you're back.
And don't even get me started on squats. I told Sam about this a couple weeks ago when we were at the gym, and I was like, dude, there's no way to do a back squat with good form.
No.
It's impossible.
As far as like how the bones are supposed to be
as far as your spine in a healthy position, there is zero possible way to put weight.
Using a barbell. You can
using a barbell.
That's
dumbbell. Very cool. Nobody really said that.
Because, you know, I was talking to Sam about it, and like the neck, I mean, just look at me from the side, right? Look at me from the side. I'm here. My arms have to be way back here, and I have to go down.
Yeah. And you have to stick your ass out.
My ass
as far back
and
as
look
possible.
there's no way my neck is in good posture right now.
Right.
Your neck is craned back.
And so, and then think of it, the weight is now shoving down into this.
Like,
right.
So, like, one of the most
destroying your discs.
And one of the most common issues that people have in modern times is thoracic kyphosis, which basically means, you know, the upper part of your rib cage is basically curled forward. Because everyone's got rotated shoulders like this. Right. They're all kind of leaning forward because we sit at computers, we do this.
Right. That's
and then you're going to throw 300 pounds in your back and then do that terrible posture and then be like, oh, I'm so strong. Look at my legs go. Like, your poor spine. Your poor spine is just being curled this way. And then because it's supposed to actually curl back, right? Your neck is supposed to curl backwards. It's supposed to go this way. So then you're like you're taking it and you're over accentuating the curve, and then you're saying I'm gonna put weight on exactly the spot where it shouldn't be curving, and then you're gonna be like, then I'm gonna bend this way, and then I'm gonna go this way, and at no point do you actually like let the neck go that way. So I do not ever do
because
back
they're supposed
squats.
to be on your traps, but it's like even though it's on your traps, that means that your neck is still gonna like
everything's still
naturally.
curves.
It
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
exactly.
It
It's just
doesn't
to push
matter
it
what
forward.
muscle you touch it. You're hitting your bone.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
It
doesn't matter whether it's on your
spine.
trap or your rotator cuff or
Mm-hmm.
your scapula. It's
Yeah.
on your spine, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like the force is going down. Like so, there's no, in my opinion, there is not a possible way to do a back squat with a barbell in good form.
Right.
And so, I am a huge fan of goblet squats with weights. I'm a huge fan of just take some dumbbells and do some squats like that. I love hex bars. I know that they have this new one where like it's kind of like a whole like contraption where like kind of arches over your shoulders or something like that. Because we live in a society where people's necks are so far forward, and that's why chiropractors are a dime a dozen. Because everyone's like, oh, my neck is leaned forward. It's out of alignment. Like, well, yeah. So maybe you should put weight right there and do that.
That's called cell phone neck.
Yeah, tech neck, cell phone neck, Zoom neck. It's so common, and one of the simplest ways to do it is to actually take something like this and just lay on it. Just literally put this in your neck and just use gravity to put it back. Because, as someone who had all of my joints like in proper alignment, I was seeing chiropractors multiple times a week, and what I learned was like they would crack in adjusting the exact same bone every single time I went in there. And I was like, okay, where's the long-term solution? Like, why can't you just like build me a bed that form fits to my spine and it exactly pushes up where I need it to push? And that's a woman, a fellow massage therapist, she actually made pillows specific to do that. And
dude, I was trying to explain this to one of my patients at one point because they were coming in for back issues. They had back pain, and I was like, yeah, so like essentially, we can fix the pain over and over and over and over and over, but the pain's always going to come back because of the
habits.
Yeah, exactly, the habits. So I was like, so you need to sleep in a different way, and he's like, oh, I can't change that.
Yeah, people are so resistant to it.
And I'm like, dude, please.
Well, and honestly, to that point, like, and I talk, I don't necessarily talk bad about doctors, but doctors are put in a tough spot because you've got people like that. They're like, hey, I've got pain, I want to get better, and you're like, well, maybe you should stop doing that thing that you're doing. And they're
this
like,
is what's causing you pain.
Yeah, and they're like,
stop doing it.
And then they're like, no, I don't want that. And then the doctor's like, well, I gotta do something. So then they come up with these magical like anti-pain pills or cortisone shots and all these things that they do because people don't want to do the work. And
exactly, because people don't want to do the homework. People don't want to like fix themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and to be honest, and this might be a bit of a leap, and some people might not like this, but the people that don't want to take care of their bodies should just become robots. Like genuinely, like put your brain into a robot. Because right now, these are flesh suits.
Yeah.
These are expensive flesh suits that require
the most
I
valuable.
see what you're saying.
Like just if you don't want to take care of it, then don't, because you know how expensive it is.
That's where we're going. It's not even a joke. It's literally where we're going.
Like,
there are a lot of people like
because I mean, we spend so much money keeping sick people alive. So much money keeping people that actively don't care about themselves. Like, I've got plenty of friends that are EMTs, and they go week in and week out to the same heroin overdoses. Let the dude just live with a drip of heroin in him. Just, you know what I mean? Like, just let him do it. Or let him die.
it's hard to...
Or let him die.
Yeah. And
you gotta hear that, though.
Yeah.
It's like, for example, when I discovered all of these things about, hey, engineering your environment so that you can move better, I have less couches, I use a standing desk, I even have a crouching, like, a desk that I can sit on a meditation pillow and,
nice.
I'm real low. But as an architect, for example, as anybody with a computer job, consider more productivity when you engineer your environment better for your body and your spine to ultimately send those patterns back up and down like it does. And when that really clicked for me, I'm like, wow, that's worth every ergonomic chairs and interior design are like, shit, you pay $800 for a chair.
Yeah.
Just because they say, hey, it's going to help you feel better so you can work more efficiently.
And it's like, what if you just spent like a few minutes a day just like sitting up straight?
Right?
You know? Well, and like, so one of the biggest things that I prescribe my homework, like that girl with the torn Achilles, is like the homework for like an ergonomic chair is literally so simple. Like, don't spend any money on a chair. Just every single day, whenever you go pee, I say this to every client, like, because you're spending 8 hours a day at a desk, you're gonna pee at least 4 times maybe in 8 hours if you drink enough water. You know, depending on how often you pee.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah, two.
Yeah.
Even if it's 5, even if it's one time, if you spend because remember, you get up to go pee because you have a signal that says, hey, if I don't pee, this hurts. So if you can basically combine that pain signal, if you will, with I'm going to prevent my pain in the future, and just go to the wall and do like a posterior chain action. Because when you're sitting, I know this, so many people like they'll bend their feet in like this and they're like super active like this. So just literally go put your heels and stand up on your heels. Don't let your feet touch.
That's why I see you doing that all the time.
And then it's like, you know, go to the wall, and I'll use like a little wall, and I'll be like, okay, go on my butt, and then it's like, because like right now if I had to wait here, I'd have to do this.
Right.
So by doing this, you can pull that back. You're basically trying to like activate the entire posterior chain, and then that will basically reset your hips, your back, your legs, your arms, your neck, the entire thing. And if you just do that one thing, whenever you pee, in the bathroom doorway, when you stand up to go to the bathroom, when you stand up from the toilet, if you just do those couple things, guarantee you'll have less pain. It's a simple mechanics thing. And
I can vouch for it. I grew like a half an inch, no lie, from being unwound in 7 months.
That's crazy.
Half an inch, like
that's a lot.
That's from like 5th round to 2nd round.
Yeah,
dude.
We gotta realize as athletes, that 1%, that half percent, yo, you can sleep on it if you want.
My first time I had my psoas worked on. So this was, I was in massage school. This when I was 18 years old. I at this point I didn't really know any of the stuff that I knew. I was still kind of training. I knew that I was all out of whack, but I grew 1.5 inches in one 20-minute session.
What?
1.5 inches. That's how compressed I was. Because my hips
gonna wind everything.
My hips were so rotated forward, and my right hip was rotated inward. So when they did that, I basically went up, back. And so that motion gave me a ton of space in my spine.
Everywhere.
I got taller.
Oh, dude, you know what that reminds me of?
What's that?
When you were showing me about my posture, way early on when I was still working on getting my personal trainer certificate. And so that was still when I was trying to fix my duck walk, right?
Yep.
And so I learned, my grandfather pointed out a duck walk. And so once I stopped duck walking, I just made my shit parallel. And then once I fixed my spine posture, I literally grew an inch. And that's just from posture.
The thing is, like, these things are not complicated.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating part, is that what our current, I guess America, right, even global, like the current method is like, you go to doctors are smart, they know about the body, they will help you. But what they don't know is like, doctors don't really help you in this regard. They won't help you get taller. They won't help you optimize your body. They're there because at a certain point, medicine decided that they didn't care about anything except for keeping people alive.
Yeah, it's weird how doctors, they're not gonna show you how to be healthier in your day-to-day life. They're not gonna hey, if you fix this, this, and this, then you won't need to come back here. They're actually trying to capitalize off of our sickness.
Well, it's not the doctors. It's
the companies that are controlling the doctors. COVID, right? Hospitals were paid depending on how many COVID deaths that they had.
Right.
And so they literally lied about who died from COVID. You know, people would die from a heart attack, and then the doctors would be like, well, I will get money if they died from COVID. And so there were a lot of fake stats that were not entirely true. And the reason why was to perpetuate the idea that COVID is this dangerous, terrible thing, and that we all need to stay inside. And it's like, in the end, these businesses are just trying to make money off of us.
Well,
so it's like we can give them a temporary solution that will fix the immediate problem, but it won't fix the long-term initial source.
And so I had to ask myself, once I learned and knew better, am I going to do better? Once I saw what the health, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, and the tough part is, how do people like us reach the masses?
Right.
Because we know that they were manipulating the algorithms on social media. We know that they were manipulating like mainstream media. We know that they were doing these things, and so the tough part is that people know that health insurance is a scam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I had an Uber driver once, and because I always like to talk to people that I meet. He asked me, like, what do you do? I was like, oh, like, I'm a neuroscientist and I help people heal their bodies faster.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, whoa, it's pretty cool. And I was like, and he started talking to me. He's like, yeah, I paid, because he was talking about health insurance. He's like, you cover health insurance? I was like, no, I'm not. And he was like, well, why not? I was like, well, they won't cover me.
Because health insurance doesn't want to cover things.
Yeah, that's a given.
And so I started asking him. I was like, hey, like, how much of your paycheck gets taken out every month for health insurance? And he was like, well, I never even thought about that. I have no idea. Just gets skimmed off the top. I've never even thought about how much I pay for health insurance. And so he did the math. And so he had 3 kids, him and his wife, $900 per month.
Jeez.
And that man had not seen a doctor in 3 years. So over those 3 years, that is $30,000 that he has spent to not see a doctor. Don't get me wrong. He was like, to be fair, my kid gets a physical. My son needed a dental thing. I was like, dude, the out of pocket for that is not $30,000.
It's not that.
None of that's $30,000. And I was like, well, did any of that money go towards making you feel better? Do you feel better now that you spent $30,000? I was like, can you imagine what $30,000 would look like coming to my clinic?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, think about what $30,000 would look like if you saw an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, massage therapist, stretch therapist, and nutritionist.
And a personal trainer.
And a personal trainer, yeah. Well, that covers you for years.
Yeah.
Like, and then that's really what I want to build in this clinic. I want to be able to basically say, hey, I think health insurance is a scam because, yes, it's important that if you break your leg, you need to get surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But also, do you really?
Mm-hmm. Can we put that bone in a place and facilitate the body to heal itself as it's built?
What happened before we had surgery? People broke bones for a long time before we invented surgery. You make a stint.
And then it heals itself.
It's basically like physiotherapy. and then you go in with a laser and you go in with someone like me with Reiki, and then you can basically manipulate the scar tissue to fix it the right way.
That brings forth the thought of understanding of why I'm here collaborating with Cameron, and oh my goodness.
The possibilities are endless, dude.
That's why we want to make the thing where it's like, this could be like a gym and like a massage therapy thing and like an acupuncture and like
this is why we bridge people towards, hey, start a garden. It's going to, because I canceled my gym membership. I'm not saying like I don't want to get under the squat bar because I would like to, but I'm in this phase of my life. My garden is literally my gym. I found I could climb a piece of the tree. I got a pull-up bar now.
Yeah,
I have to get a rope.
There you go.
And I'm holding on to the tree. I'm really gathering some energy there. And so like, it's deep, man, when we start to connect with nature and realize how. And you know what? Let's tell a story. I went up to West Virginia for the first time, and when was that? Probably like 2022. And my man Alexor, shout out to Alexor, Blooming Mountains Sanctuary. He was amazed at how well I was moving, like the pitchfork and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, man, pro football, da 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 da. And the light bulb went off in his head, like, why don't we have more strong men working the land? Where are all our strong men at?
They're out there pushing weights in the gym.
You know?
Yeah.
I think we have something here. I think we have a real conversation here as far as how we use our energy.
Yeah.
Because if we can put that into our nourishment, you know.
Absolutely.
Well, think about it. Who were the OG like strong men before gym time? It was the lumberjacks.
Right.
Yeah.
The people that would
the
go.
fucking Vikings and the fucking people that were like using the land. The motherfuckers that were out there fucking cutting down trees.
Dude, I know why I'm here.
But now we have machines for that too. That's the thing. We have to kind of figure out because you ever carry 2 buckets of water?
That's I'm telling you.
That's heavy.
That's my workout.
It's called a farmer's
It's
carry
like
bodybuilding.
it makes me put my shoulder back into place.
Yep, because otherwise you can dislocate it.
Right? Or that sucker just gonna be like hurting.
Yeah.
I mean, things down to like getting down in the ground. And like, you ever put a shovel in the ground and try to turn it?
Yeah.
You better put your feet in the ground. That shovel not going nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, digging trenches and stuff, moving the logs.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And we out here moving along, who's carrying the logs? You know what I'm talking about?
You talking about
What's his name? David Goggins, right?
Yeah, dude. Well, and we talked about Boy Scouts earlier, and like Boy Scouts, and I don't know if this is true, but I've always viewed Boy Scouts as like the pre-military for
It is.
Yeah.
Because if you actually become an Eagle Scout and then you try and go into the military, you are 4 ranks higher than someone else that had not done shit.
Really? You're like,
yeah,
you're in
that's
D5?
cool.
Yeah, you start ahead. Yeah, because you
Wow.
already know how to make fires, you already know how to do a whole bunch of
Yeah.
shit that they teach you in the military.
I
It's
can't
like
make a
just
fire,
stay
y'all. I'm Mr.UnderOneSun. I'm Mr.UnderOneSun, a Libra fire sign, and boy, I have problems making a fire. But we're gonna take care of that.
That's funny.
This was a good one.
Yeah, this was
I
a
feel
good
like we got
one.
a lot of just synergy going
Yeah.
between like
It's coming,
our
dude.
stories. This is very healing for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information in here, a lot to express, and a lot of like, you can like hold on to like what didn't work out until you realize like it's not your fault.
It's not your fault, man.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like I
Dude,
mean,
it was all a canon event.
yeah, right?
You know what I mean?
And like you didn't want to wake up one day and have epilepsy. You didn't
Mhm.
want to wake up one day and tear your Achilles. I didn't want to wake up one day and not able to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the fact that all 3 of us have different levels of injuries that we've
Mhm.
been through have brought us to basically the same table. It's like, hey, you need to recover. You need to rest. You still need the discipline in the resting. You still need the motivation. You need to have as hard as you play your sport or you do your activity is how hard you have to play with you recover.
Yeah.
It's really that's the core message I think that we're all kind of getting at is like whether you play
need to
football,
recover just
whether
as
you're
hard.
doing everything Omnifitness, or
Yeah.
whether you're like me doing monkey stuff and you're playing on monkey bars and doing body weight stuff, you need to recover. You need to do deep stretches. And I'm a huge proponent of doing long stretches. And this is the last thing I'm going to say because
Dude, stretching with you,
neuroscience.
oh my god.
It's intense, dude. it's hard. It
Yeah.
hurts.
It literally-
It's intense. So I'm gonna.
You're worn out. It's a literal workout,
It's
just
a workout.
stretching. Like,
Just because remember, this is a bench press, but this is equally as hard to do.
mhm.
But so
Especially if you've been over, like,
compressing it.
yeah.
And
Because
so,
then you have people that have done over the bench press too much, and we stretch them out, and their pain when they just put their
it's so heavy, dude.
yeah, they literally like scream and cry, like
because their entire body is in a different position.
yeah,
Like their shoulder blade and their arm are rotated differently because
they're just pulled forward.
because your pec attaches over here.
yeah,
It
it
attaches
attaches
to
like
your
halfway
arm.
down your arm,
It
like
attaches to your damn arm. So if you're super strong here, your
Damn.
entire arm is not only rotated
Bro.
internally. When that rotates
Yeah.
internally, that forces your scapula to rotate this way. And then guess
And
what
then your
you
traps
have
are
right
stretched.
here? A nerve. And so when
Yeah.
you now say, hey, I'm going to stretch you this way, you then basically crush that nerve.
you pinch
And so the last thing I want to leave people with is there's something called a muscle spindle fiber reflex. Muscle spindle fiber for short. I guess that's not really short.
the spindles.
The spindles.
Yeah.
They're spindles. So your body has a fail safety mechanism that does not allow you to get injured. You have 2 types of them. You have a Golgi tendon,
Mhm.
organ, and you have a muscle spindle fiber. And they both do the exact same function. So the phenomena that if you're ever falling asleep and like you're dozing off, so you're sitting here, you're in class, whatever, you start to fall asleep, you're like, you jerk right up. So what's happening is that as you go this way, the muscles on this side are getting elongated. And they're getting elongated rather quickly because gravity's pulling on you, you're losing, and then at some point, these muscle spindles,
Hold on, bro.
they say, nope, I'm not letting you rip. Because at some point you
I'm
would
ready to
rip.
read. Yep.
And so it forces you to contract. And so if you are stretching after a workout, or you should stretch after workouts, if you don't turn off that muscle spindle fiber, the second you release that stretch, your muscle will instinctively recontract.
Yeah.
Go back to what it
kind of like muscle
goes
guarding.
to. Muscle guarding, exactly. And so so research looked into this, like, how long do you have to stretch to turn off that reflex? 28 seconds to 30 seconds. 28 to 32 seconds is like the optimal level, and that's just to turn it off. So if you hold a stretch for 15 seconds, the stretch you did is cool.
Good.
But the second you let go, it jerked right back. There's no long lasting lengthening of that muscle. And so I recommend a minimum 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to count for 30 seconds, so just take 4, 5, 6 deep breaths. Like slow deep breaths, and that's why it hurts so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're actually taking the muscle that is basically stuck in a shortened position and saying, I'm literally going to rip you open.
Yeah.
And so what actually happens when you do this long, deep stretching is you actually cause micro tears,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's how you can optimize the amount of size ratio to strength.
Mm-hmm.
Is you basically rip open these muscles and say, hey, I know that I just trained you and I got strong, but now I want to know what happens if I compress you and lengthen you.
Yeah, it's a sleeper build. You're building the sleeper build.
Because no one looks at me and thinks, oh, I'm a big jack dude.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
When I take my shirt off, you can tell that all my muscles are here.
Mm-hmm.
They're all functional.
I mean, you're lean. Yeah.
I'm lean, and I can bench press almost as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a couple weeks in the gym. I haven't been in the gym in 2 weeks now because I went to Connecticut, I visited some family.
Yeah.
I've been out here working.
You've got a lot going on
going
right
on.
now. You got a lot of shit on your plate.
And I genuinely think that even though you've got 50 pounds on me, I'm neck and neck with you almost on some of those lifts. Not all of them, by any means, not all of them. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to leave you with. It's like when you stretch after a workout, hold it for a minimum of 30 seconds because of the muscle spindle fibers.
Recovery. You're gonna be an athlete, just recover, man. The game's always gonna be there, and when you hurt, they don't care about you.
Mm-mm.
That's just the truth.
It's so true.
We don't only care about you so much if you're not helping us win.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, the moment you get injured, you get shoved to the side. It's like, all right, and who's next?
So it's assembly line. Well,
Yeah.
that's actually kind of how it works for big companies too, corporations. When you if you, that's why this is going to be very controversial. We can cut this part out if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
The gender wage gap.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that exist?
Oh yeah.
Because women, when they have a kid, they take a year or two off.
It's because of maternal leave.
Maternity leave.
And so, the whole point is women are almost expected to sacrifice their career for their child, while men are expected to provide for the family.
Because their woman is at home with the kid.
Yeah, and it's because of the gender norms and that society has created. And so it's like,
well, another day, goodness.
And that also, that stat is like the average of all men and all women. And so it's like, there are a lot more women that get to stay at home and take care of the kids than there are men that are staying at home and not working.
Yeah, dude. I as a father, so I have a 2-year-old. I would love to be a stay-at-home dad. I told my wife that years ago. I was like, I chose my field so that way I can make my own hours. I can live the life I want to live, and I can play with my kid all day long. Because I'm just a big kid.
Who are you talking about?
I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go and slave away 80 hours of my life just to make some money.
That's what I'm saying. It is a privilege to be able to choose. But at the same time, because of the gender norms and the expectations oppressed onto them, the choice isn't really there entirely.
Unless you start a garden that flourishes so much.
Yeah, unless you just fuck off and start a garden.
You're not worried too much about the basic needs. My philosophy to get people to just think, grow more food, work less. Grow more food, work less. Because Whole Foods ain't have no food. I don't care if you drive a Tesla or a hoopty, you're screwed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes to rural living. That's a whole different other topic too. It's like, you know, rural living versus urban living.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, because a year and a half ago, we almost bought like 100 acres of land.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to do this.
I saw they were doing something in it was either Cincinnati or it was somewhere in Ohio, where they put in this massive garden in like a food desert area in the ghetto, essentially.
Change the whole dog.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was like a massive.
They're literally energetic, like sanctuaries.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I feel in my backyard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and like the other thing, you know, going barefoot outside is huge. Like, cause
grounding.
Yeah. Well, and I saw this thing, like, if you take a voltmeter and, you know, you basically have, you know, the black one in the earth and then you have the red one in your finger, and you're just like standing on the ground like with like shoes on, you have nothing. The second you take your shoes off and you step on earth, there's like 50 volts.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an absurd number of volts that you get just from like connecting to earth.
Mm-hmm.
And for people to be like, oh, like, why do I do that? Like, what do you mean why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're an energy field. Like, you need to basically discard some of that stuff.
And
people don't get that. Oh, the human energy field.
Yeah, it's been a good one.
Yeah.
We are definitely figuring out what this is called. So
Yeah.
now we want to inspire people to eat, breathe, and move better.
Move.
And we talk about all these different aspects of life that connect to you and your human experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because why not upgrade it?
Yeah.
Why not?
So EBM, is that us? The EBM podcast?
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Breathe, move.
I actually don't mind that.
It's not
It's
terrible.
like EDM, EBM. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, EBM.
Mhm.
Eat, breathe, move.
Mm-hmm.
Eat, breathe, move.
Or we just call Eat, breathe, move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That could be
We'll
it.
figure it out.
I can't wait to see your logo for that. Like, you know, Eat, breathe, move.
Right.
I'm seeing like some like white block letters like Eat, breathe, move.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm looking at like my little Spotify like podcast. Eat, breathe, move.
There are a lot of podcast apps that we can, because we could put this on Spotify, we
Yeah.
can put it on other stuff.
Apple, Amazon, all these different things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Audible.
Let's turn this bitch off before we keep going. What if it just like didn't record?